assemble if called upon in significant numbers as the guardians of the free republics. If you have the courage to reclaim the de jure institutions of your government as a juror on the de jure grand juries, then I invite you to send us an email and mark in the subject line, "Wish to join," a dash, and then put in the name of the republic in which you will be representing. If you would like to be a state or regional coordinator who will handle the final organization of the de jure grand juries, or you believe you can assemble a substantial number of people in furtherance of the goals that I've outlined here tonight, then please mark the subject line "coordinator," add a dash, and put the name of the republic. And finally, before I bring my fellow guardian elders to the program, I would like to address any other groups or assemblies or similar undertakings throughout the land. If you're engaged in assembling or a similar process, but you don't quite know the way to the finish line, I invite you to come over and join with us, as I think you will find that the Restore America plan is the last best hope to re-inhabit the republic now, not later, in the most logical way with the least risk of conflict and unnecessary controversy. Now, mind you, even if the military were to fail to fulfill their offer to us, the mere act of assembling with true and proper authority on the land is a victory in and of itself, as we will then have the authority to engage the public pretenders on a playing field where they simply cannot stand. A field where they have no borrowed energy with which to commit further acts of evil, and where the facade of legitimacy has been fatally punctured. It's so thoroughly penetrated that many of them will shrink away from confrontation with the knowledge that the liabilities of attempting to subjugate de jure land-based authority by private, corporate, de facto actors is far too perilous to accept. You know, folks, many lawyers are well aware that they have no authority on the land and certainly no standing to disobey the lawful orders of the sovereign people. Now, for those of you who doubt that when push comes to shove, the officers of the United States Federal Corporation, especially the higher levels of the judiciary, do not understand their limitations, I'm going to bring forth our first guest. He's never been on the program before. He is a member of what we're calling the Guardian Elders who authored this procedure and will be taking responsibility for it. But 2 years ago, I told you a story about this man, and then Larry Beecraft spent a year ridiculing that he didn't exist and that his story, if he did exist, was untrue. I told you a story, I think it was January 2 years ago, of a fellow who got placed on the ground and shackled, brought in on a Friday into a federal court. They said they'd hold him till Monday, and he told the marshals, "If you do, I'll issue a warrant for your arrest." I asked him how, and he said, "I'll issue the warrant, and I'll have 3 county notaries sign off on it. So you'd better take me to the magistrate tonight." And they did. And the magistrate entered court and said, "Sir, what's your name?" And he said, "I am who I say I am." And he said, "I asked you again, what's your name?" And he said, "Well, I'm the guy who's holding a warrant for the arrest of," and he mentioned the name of a judge he had completed an administrative process on. Lo and behold, it was that judge whose face turned bright red and left the courtroom and never came back. And 20 minutes later, the marshals were joking, "Where'd he go?" "Well, I think he's in the back throwing up." This friend of mine signed an appearance bond because he didn't want his family to worry and he knew he could take care of it later, but he was a little tardy in taking care of it. And so they sent the 12-member SWAT team. They hauled him in. And I am proud to be introducing to you a man who stood there by himself while the so-called judge told him he had maybe 20 other charges in a sealed indictment. He was going to spend many years in prison. And when he asked my friend his name, my friend said, "By what authority do you come before me?" That legendary line that most of you know. And within the course of the next 24 hours, he arrested two of the judges who ran from that courtroom with red faces. He stood up as a member of the sovereign people, as a living man who would not convey his energy to them to convene their dirty business. And when the chief judge said to him, what are you going to do? Rather, the second judge said to him, what are you going to do with the problem you have? He said to the judge, I need to correct you. I don't have a problem, you do. But I tell you what, I understand there's a lien for $135 million against this place, so I'll have 3 county notaries sign off on it. We'll mail it to the provost marshal, and we'll hold a bleeping yard sale around there. He said that in open court, and the judge ran. And before the end of the second day, the final judge, the chief judge, ran from the room, then stuck his head back in and said, oh, I forgot. Case dismissed, all charges dismissed. And they brought my friend into a holding room. And then they brought 10 U.S. Marshals. By the way, you understand there is no such office. 10 U.S. de facto agents, one by one, to apologize to him. Unprecedented. And then they brought him into chambers, and the 3 judges were there, and they said, if you get any more paper from this building, please do not send it back to us. Just call us, and we'll take care of it. And so I bring you tonight a man who knows who he is. That's the kind of people you will be guided by in this process. And I'm proud to welcome to the program Regan Duane. Regan, thanks for joining us, especially when you have the flu.
Yes, I'm a little bit under the weather.
All right, well, thank you, Regan. And you don't even sound like you. But be patient for 1 minute because I'd like to bring our other guests in.
Sure.
Secondly, this second guest is someone that our regular listeners know very well. What can I say about him that won't embarrass him to no end? Because he is a humble man and a scripturally honest broker in every sense of the word. If you need advice and if something is right and wrong, this is the man you go to. He grew up on the south side of Chicago, and you would not want to go up against him in a dark, or for that matter, a light alley. And he has looked them in the face 60 or 70 times and told them to get lost. He does not carry state ID. He drives around, as both of these fellows do, in their own vehicles, without plates, without placards. He's a man of enormous knowledge and dedication, and absolutely has refused for years to take any compensation for the assistance that he has provided to people. He has put himself on the line more than anyone I know. He has a command of the issues better than anyone I know. And he is in the front line of many of the things that we do. You've heard him before. You've listened to him because he's worth listening to. My pleasure to bring to the program Thomas Bradford Schultz. Tom, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Sam. Good to be here.
Now, I don't know if our third guest, the third member of the Guardian Elders, is with us or not. Because he was supposed to call me earlier, but he was involved in seminar. And the phones are tied up from what I've heard from the producer in my ear. We're okay, so we do have an open line. Tim, if you're out there trying to get in, call in now, please. This fellow is well known to most of you because he has toured the country selflessly to bring you freedom, his freedom documents and his freedom methods. He's charged minimally for that sharing of information. He has a wealth of people who look to him for counsel and advice. He's a wonderful guy, another scriptural devotee. He has engaged them in their own forums. He is a former employee of FEMA in Florida. I believe he was second in command in the state, so he knows the system from the inside.